Hello. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to wait 60 seconds to let everybody continue to join from the waiting room, and then we'll begin. Well, I think we'll start. Welcome to our fourth Lunch and Learn series presented by the Charlottesville Police Foundation and the Charlottesville Police Department. We are really excited to be presenting this series and really glad that you're joining us today. My name is Gail Milligan. I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation. We are deeply appreciative to the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy for facilitating this entire Zoom series for us. Thank you, Diane and Katie. The Lunch and Learn series is one of the outcomes of our community engagement last year and is part of our core mission to inform and connect. In each session, members of the CPD will offer unique insight into the work that they do and answer your questions about that work. Before we begin, I wanted to share a brief overview of our work at the Charlottesville Police Foundation. Simply stated, the Charlottesville Police Foundation serves the community by serving the police. We seek to improve the quality of life in Charlottesville by offering a community partner to our police department. The foundation promotes excellence in police services by investing in programs that enhance our department and yet are beyond the reasonable reach of the city's budget. We reward excellence by celebrating the successes of our department and the skills of our officers. And we strengthen the connections between the department and the public through outreach programs and community events, the Lunch and Learn series being the most recent example. The best examples of the diverse support we provide include housing grants to officers so they can live in the community they serve, an awards dinner and Officer of the Month program, advanced training for officers, grants for specific needs such as K-9, technology, and programs in the community, and outreach events like Cops for Kids Day, celebrated every year with the Boys and Girls Club, and the Charlottesville Night Out, which celebrates police and our community. To clarify, we are an independent 501c3 nonprofit, and while we partner with the Charlottesville Police Department, we do not report to the Charlottesville Police Department, nor to the City Council, nor to any part of the city government. We are not a police union, nor do we do the work associated with a police union. To the extent that we advocate for the CPD, it is to improve the quality of policing as a service to our community. I make this note because we are aware of persistent misperceptions of the role of the foundation, and we like to clarify that any chance that we get. Now I'd like to introduce our presenters. Lieutenant DJ Jones is the hiring and recruiting manager for the Charlottesville Police Department. He began his career with CPD in November of 1989. DJ has served the community as an officer in several capacities, including uniform patrol, as a field training officer, member of the SWAT Team, and one of the agency's first certified bike officers. As a supervisor, he served as a patrol sergeant and lieutenant in the operations division. Sergeant Russell Handy has also had a very long career in law enforcement, which began in Rhode Island. And he came to Charlottesville and joined the Charlottesville Police Department in August of 2007. A note for you, we will answer your questions at the end, but anytime, and we encourage you to ask all of your questions, just make a note in the question section and we'll answer at the end. Thank you. Lieutenant Jones and Sergeant Handy, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Gail, thank you for having us. We're excited to have an opportunity to sit down during lunchtime and discuss hiring and recruiting. So we have a short PowerPoint presentation we've put together. We look forward to any Q&A, after we go through the presentation, and I'll just get started. Okay. So the topics we're going to be going over today are our current selection process, what that looks like in real time, how long it takes, and the various phases of that process. We're going to talk about the ideal attributes that we're looking for in new candidates today. And we'll also discuss challenges that are facing recruiting and hiring, retaining officers throughout the country and also in Charlottesville. And then we're going to just end on a note of what we're doing right now to improve recruiting and get fully staffed here at CPD. So this is just an outline of all the steps that we have when we initially vet candidates for hire. It's pretty extensive. It's about 6 hours of our time with each candidate. And that's just to get them through the testing, the written test, and the law fit physical agility test. And then the applicants, they have to submit a bunch of paperwork for us. They fill out a personal history statement on a cloud-based software system called Background Solutions. That's when they basically tell us their life story. We review that along with their HR application, and also vet them with the written exam and the law fit before determining who will be selected for interview. So a lot of time goes into this. So we actually recently, in the last couple of years, we built our physical agility course out at CHS. So now we're actually doing our own PT testing instead of traveling to the police academy over in Weir's Cave. So that's been a great benefit to us. And we're very thankful for some of the community donations we got to help build the course and so forth. So moving into phase two of the hiring process. This is when applicants that were chosen to interview, they'll have their interview panel. It's typically the panelists are from all ranks of the department. It's pretty competitive, as you can imagine. With COVID right now, the last several processes we've run, we've had to do Zoom interviews. It's not the ideal platform for older generations like myself, but the new candidates have done well with the platform. Russell, would you like to talk about the background investigation a little bit?
Sure. So after the applicants go through the panel interview, you'll get their scores. We'll rank each applicant, and then we make our selection, and then we start the background investigation, and that consists of, once again, going through their PHS. It's very extensive. It could be like 40, 50 pages, and it just starts. It basically lists their entire life, basically. We'll go through that. We'll bring the candidates in, and forgive me if I'm jumping, LT, but we do a one-on-one with them as part of our background investigation to make sure that everything they have in their PHS lines up. Background investigation, that could probably last 4, maybe 6 weeks, depending on the applicant. If the applicant is like right out of college, they're local, their backgrounds tend to go a little quicker, opposed to somebody who's older like myself, who's lived in different states, who's had several jobs. It takes a little bit more time to dig into their background. we'll give them, as it says on the screen, we'll go and offer them a conditional. If they accept the conditional offer, then we'll move on to having them go see the polygraph examiner. That usually takes several hours. And then we'll do the psychological screening. That takes several hours to administer as well. And then they also have an in-person review with the psychologist. From that point, they get a full medical physical. They do their drug screening. And then from that point, if everything is good to go, they get approved for hire. At that point, they come in to the police department and they have more paperwork that they have to fill out. It takes a couple hours to do that. They watch a couple of videos, and then they'll finish their paperwork, and then we give them a start date.
Okay. So, Gail, as I mentioned to you, that after somebody comes through the door and is hired, that typically can happen. It could happen as early as a month or two before the academy, depending on where they are in the hiring process, or typically it's 2 to 3 weeks before the police academy starts. Our next academy is in July right now, so we currently have applicants in background. I believe we're 14 right now that are in some phase of the background process. And so once
LT, can
we go to the, what's that?
I chime in real quick
Sure.
before you get started? So as Lieutenant Jones said about the hiring process, and sometimes people come here, we put them on 2 weeks before the academy starts. We have a couple of applicants right now that will probably get hired within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So the academy doesn't start until July, but they'll probably be hired in April. Those, and it doesn't happen often like that, but those recruits that come on with that much time before the academy starts, we'll bring them in and we'll basically put them as a CSO, a community service officer, and we'll pair them up with another officer. And they also get a little bit of OJT, a little bit of experience before they actually go to the academy. If they get hired a couple weeks before the academy, basically they'll just do a ride along with another officer until it's time for them to go. So we will have a couple of recruits coming on that will be here for a couple of months before the academy starts, and they'll take their role as a community service officer. Sorry, LT.
That's fine. And they do get paid a police salary when they're in that capacity.
Correct.
It's just that they're still technically not sworn and they don't have arrest authority. And as Russell was mentioning, they'll get some on-the-job training, which kind of familiarizes themselves with our systems, how we do reports, how we talk to the community members, et cetera. So they get some firsthand knowledge before they go to the academy. And that academy is over in Weir's Cave. It's a regional academy, so all the local agencies go to that one regional academy. It's a 20-week academy training, Monday through Thursday typically, 10-hour days. There are some Fridays the recruits have to go on, but that's very seldom. At the end of that academy journey, they have to pass a state mandated examination. And once they do that, they're able to graduate. We have a swearing ceremony for the candidates after they graduate, and their title of police recruit then switches over to police officer. They get a badge, and then they enter into the field training, which is the on-the-job training, and that typically lasts 3 to 4 months, depending on the candidate and how they're progressing along. And once you leave field training and you're approved to be on your own, you're then assigned to the operations division, and based on the requests of the police officer shift request or the needs of the department, they're assigned to one of our 3 shifts. So the total process once you're in the academy and training is about 8 to 9 months. So if you backtrack a little bit from the time you apply with the police department to the time you're actually working the streets of Charlottesville, it's about a year. So it's a pretty long journey. for a new hire. What are we looking for today in a new candidate? So these are just some things that came to mind. I put a collage together. We're definitely looking more towards service than we are excitement. The job is exciting, but the reality is that's not a major focus, daily focus for us. We're deal more with conflict resolution, with communicating with community members from all walks of life, from the homeless community to students to people suffering mental health issues. There's a lot that goes into this job, and we need people with certain skill sets in order to succeed. We can train you to do a lot of skills, but you have to bring stuff to the table that we necessarily can't retrain you to do. Making good decisions, being a critical thinker, a problem solver, having patience to deal with incidents that are volatile, that could be upsetting. Looking for people that are compassionate with people and empathetic. They care about what the community they're serving. They have that strong desire to serve. They've got great integrity. Those are important to us. We're looking now for people that have, because law enforcement, the technology is shifting in law enforcement, and a lot of our jobs now dependent on the technology, whether it's the software that we use to write reports, the laptop systems, the communication systems. Now, everybody in the city of Charlottesville has body cameras, and, it's familiarity and to be able to utilize these technologies and incorporate them into your daily work activities is really important. So we always look for people that have that skill set. It'll make their job easier and make our life easier. Charlottesville is a unique, diverse community. That's one of the things I love about this community. You can meet people from all over the world here on a daily basis, and we need people that understand cultures and understand there's differences exist, and that really bridges a lot of divides that we have in the community. We have multiple ethnic groups in this community. And things have changed dramatically, over my career as the population has shifted. So that's a really important ingredient for an officer here. We are looking for people that have volunteer experience. They've showed that they can show to us that I have a servant type attitude, and I enjoy that. We're attracting more people. We're attracting people with social work degrees, with psychology degrees. We're attracting people that have had international experience, that speak multiple languages. And I think at the end of the day, they'll all come together and bring some great resources for the community. I think that's important. So just, some of the challenges, and this is nationwide, it's not just Charlottesville or Virginia. The Police Executive Research Forum is one of the major think tanks for law enforcement. They do a lot of research for us. And the fewer people are applying to the job now, and more officers are leaving the department before they reach retirement age. And then there's also a growing number of people that are becoming eligible to retire. So there's lots of deficits in the cup, so to speak, as far as staffing. We are now competing for a smaller group of applicants. So it's very competitive. We have outlining agencies that recruit and hire our officers. We compete statewide with new incentives that are being created, whether it's the Virginia State Police or Albemarle County. So it's a really competitive hiring environment right now, and that that's going to continue to evolve. It's been difficult during COVID, as you might imagine, but it's going to continue to be an issue. And there are a lot of outlining issues, that have created this problem. But just as an overview to kind of give you a vantage point of what we're dealing with. So, right now, this is actual data from Charlottesville. Currently, most of our command, the majority of our command will all retired in the next 7 years. So we'll have new people coming up through the ranks, officers, sergeants, and above that will be moving up. So that they're obviously we're planning for what the future looks like in the department. But that kind of gives you an idea. The majority of our senior officers or sworn officers who have the most experience will also be gone in the next 7 years. Most of them in the next 5 years. So, this is data from 2020 of reasons for people separating from us. We've had 10 voluntary resignations. Two officers had to retire due to job-related disabilities. They were hurt on the job. We had 3 non-medical retirements, and those are people that stayed here till their career ended. They have to retire. You have to retire at age 60, and they left because they met the retirement threshold. So we lost a total of 15 people in 2020. So that means 15 more people need to be brought on board, and it takes a year to get those folks trained and ready to serve the community. So for a small agency like ours, it only has 121 sworn positions. That can directly impact, the way we do work for the community. So. What are we doing to improve recruitment? Russell, do you want to take this slide?
Sure. Okay. Last year was a tough year because of COVID and all the restrictions. So we didn't really get out a lot last year. Everything that we did basically was virtual through Zoom. But prior to that, we did visit multiple colleges, universities. We actually have partnered up with PVCC. We did a webinar. I guess it was a couple of months ago. And it's really good because the students have a chance, kind of like what we're doing now, Q&A sessions. We did the Chahamba African American Cultural Arts Festival. I believe that was 2 years ago. And once again, we just get out there. They have the event at Washington Park, and it's get out there, show your face, introduce yourself to the community, let them know what we're all about, what we're looking for. And like I said, most of it's currently is done basically just through Zoom and webinars. That's where we're at right now.
So I'd just like to add, I borrowed this quote from one of my partners, the Virginia State Police, and it's a really true statement. Is people will migrate away from your recruitment process pretty quick if you don't stay engaged with them, and if you're not dating them, I guarantee you there's another recruiter out there that's doing just that. So we really put a lot of emphasis on the front end with personal touches. We stay engaged throughout the process. We let them know how they're doing in the various steps that were available to call after hours. I started using with the last year, utilizing texting a lot because the younger generation likes that. I actually load all the candidates that are in our applicant pool in my cell phone, and I've got their name in there. I even assign a special ringtone, so I know when my phone rings, I know it's a recruit calling. we're pretty good at responding as soon as possible to any email correspondence we get. We're doing a good job now providing applicant support, particularly with the law fit test. We'll go out for several weekends and let people practice it. We'll invite physical fitness trainers to come out and help people improve their fitness so that they have the right, not only the skills, but just they're using the right techniques to get over the wall or drag that 150-pound dummy that we have on the law fit course. And we've been successful with that. We've had several people that attended the training sessions that initially couldn't pass the test, but they now are able to pass it, and they're in the process. So we're excited about that. We've streamlined our hiring process, Gail, with the out-of-state applicants. It used to be they'd make multiple trips, and they'd be driving for hours on end and come to Charlottesville 4 or 5 times. And we've gotten it down to a science now. It's about 2 trips to get them through the hiring process. And that second or third visit is when they sign the paperwork to get a start date. But I think we've had good success. We are getting people from the Northeast that are wanting to escape the high cost of living, that have ties to Virginia, that are coming down here. And the same goes for people that are outboarding the military. So one of the things that we're trying to do, and Russell and I are always looking for other ways to think out of the box and to relax standards and to expand our applicant pool. So we're not always successful, because it has to be approved above us. But needless to say, we've relaxed our tattoo policy. You no longer have to wear these coverings over your tattoos on your arms. You still can't have it on your neck and your face and your hands, but otherwise, there are a lot of men and women in our agency that have tattoos, and it's a norm change. I think it's a good thing. We've also, I wouldn't say relaxed, but we've defined our drug policy use, and we don't disqualify somebody specifically because they've tried a drug, experimented with drugs. That's no longer a down and out disqualifier. We look at your total drug use and your history and determine, is it experimentation or is there an addiction going on? And then we have actually built in timeframes within our police policy that says these are the guidelines for when you would have had to have last experimented with the drug, and you can apply with us. So you can imagine with the marijuana laws changing and so forth, that things that's going to impact how we look at applicants also in the future. Right now we have a year policy. You have to be free from marijuana use for a year to apply with the city, which compared to some of our peers is actually more relaxed.
Yes.
But I think we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. I think we've done a good job at that. And finally, as far as expanding the applicant pool, traditionally officers would get into this line of work who came from the military, or maybe their grandfather was a police officer, et cetera, or they knew somebody in law enforcement. And we're looking at non-traditional applicants that maybe typically 10 years ago or 5 years ago would have never applied to become officers, because we understand the skills needed to succeed in this profession. We need to attract those candidates to help us be successful. Men, for instance, are not best at certain policing, techniques, I would say, or abilities. We're always looking to expand our minority hiring group. We've had success the last several academies where we've been able to onboard women of color and females, as well as minorities. And it's important, the end goal is for us to match or do better than our own demographics in the city. So we always keep that in mind. We're tracking our demographics. We're consciously aware of where we stand there. And we're always looking for opportunities to improve in that area. So just So I'm going to back up because I think that's about the end of what I was going to do. Leaves time for some Q&A, and I'm sorry if we've gone on too long.
No, this is great. Thank you so much. Russell, do you have anything you want to add before I have a list of questions? But I just wanted to make sure that you didn't necessarily have to have the last word, but if there was anything else you
I'm
wanted to
good.
say.
Ready to answer some questions.
Great. Okay, terrific. Okay, first question, in your opinions, what can be done to reduce the timeline of the hiring process to get new jobs on more new officers on the job more quickly?
That's I guess it's a little tough right now because we have actual multiple processes going on. We're also, as like one of the slides said about the 15 people that we have lost, and now we're trying to replace those 15. If we were just trying to hire 2 or 3 people, the process would move along a little faster. But we're trying to put 15 people into backgrounds, and we're a small unit. It's Lieutenant Jones, myself, and we have a retired lieutenant who works part-time to help us out. So it's a little tough to try to get 15 people through the process a lot faster than what we're doing now. But if it was just a handful of people, we could actually probably streamline that, even with the little bit of help that we have. Just currently, I don't know of a way that we could actually make that process go any quicker than what we're doing.
Yeah.
LT? Yeah.
And Gail, I would say we've done a great job of reducing the time that it takes. We've now, we've purchased software about 7 or 8 months ago to help facilitate the background portion of the process. It really automates the sending out reference requests and responses from folks, the employers, et cetera. It's made our job a lot easier. Because we do that. Background encompasses reaching out to various law enforcement agencies within the hometown of the applicant, and it's been a great tool for us. And it also allows the user, the applicant, to also interface with us. There's no more handwriting where they had to fill out by pencil or pen. It's all online. They can do it in a cloud. We can actually see their progress. We can kind of nudge them along if they're getting close to their deadline. And so that's a good tool we have. Yeah.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Next question. Does the entry level pay for officers help or hinder the recruitment?
That's one of our issues that we have is trying to be competitive with other agencies. And we do, I guess in the past, we've had a couple people come to our department that were certified from other departments. And our pay was a little better, but it is difficult when you start looking around at other agencies and comparing salaries. Unfortunately, some of the younger recruits that we get, they're not looking at retirement and the retirement benefit that we offer, which is a really good benefit. What they're looking at is what they can get like right now. Mm-hmm. So they look at that salary, they look at maybe the county, what the county has to offer, and then we start competing. And sometimes we do lose applicants to the county because of the starting salary. But on the back end, if they were looking towards retirement in 20 years, 25 years, they would see that we do have a good retirement system here, but some of them aren't looking that far.
Right.
It's kind of instant gratification with the new generation, the younger generation anyway. So
the immediacy factor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
DJ, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I would just say, our starting salary, it probably is in line with our peers. It's being able to have a progressive step system that allows the officers to know where they're going to be in 5 or 10 years. And then some of those other tangible benefits that, are always selling points, like, take-home cars. I would say, 3/4 of the department probably already has a car, but it's not a guaranteed perk when you get hired here. And that's something some candidates look for. I think the important thing outside of salary and retaining people is the environment they work in and making sure they feel valued. And I think we're working really hard as an organization to try to do that, to try to make sure that we all have the same outlook of where we're going to go and where we want to be in the future as an agency. And I think that that's a good thing. I think when we value as an employee and we show that on a daily basis, there's a more likelihood that you're going to stay within the organization, even if you don't make more money than the adjoining agency peer, so.
Right. Great. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Are there any specific challenges to hiring locally and/or from traditionally disadvantaged communities?
We try all the time to we prefer, maybe I should say we prefer, but we would like to hire locally. I mean, anybody who's local with ties to the community is a benefit for the department, because it helps, bridge that gap. But I don't know what the solution is to hire more local people. We do, like I said, we do our community events. It's just, it's a challenge because right now the police profession isn't as popular as it once was. But yeah, we've hired a couple of local applicants in the last couple of years, and they do very well. I don't know what we can do more to get out there to attract more local applicants. LT?
Yeah, and I would say we have a lot of local folks that apply. Sometimes they don't go with CPD. Maybe they go to the fire department, or they decide they can't afford to live on the salary that we offer. That's impacted us both locally and out of state. We've had people go through the entire applicant process to learn they can't afford to live here. And then we've spent months trying to bring them in. So those are some of the realities. I mean, Charlottesville obviously knows there's a high cost of living. We're better positioned now after COVID. Our goal is to really invest some energy in PBCC, not just in the criminal justice law enforcement curriculum out there, but school-wide, because you don't necessarily need a degree in criminal justice to do this job. And there are other degrees that can come into play that might benefit you just as much. So we're hoping to build an internship program. They have a new director of the police administration curriculum out there. And our hope is to build an internship program with PBCC. And that's been the ongoing discussion, is when COVID finally dissipates, where we can do that, actively do that.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question, is a college degree necessary for becoming a police officer? If not, why not? Also, do you do recruiting at local high schools? And does the pay for LEOs, I don't know what that is, to take classes?
I'll speak to the college degree. That's a trick question. The college degree, it's a known fact that folks that have been fortunate enough to go off to school in college have had the opportunity to interact with many people that have multiple differences in their own, whether it be race, sex, people from other countries. They're exposed, the classroom exposure to social and psychological studies involving cultures, and things of this nature. So it does give you an edge, I think, in your worldview and how you see yourself and see the rest of the community, which is important to us. But do you need a college degree to succeed as a police officer? And I would say no. there are plenty of people within command and within the detective and operational areas that do not have college degrees that have been very successful here at Charlottesville. A lot of it has to do of how much you want to invest in yourself, in your own training, and in your commitment to the job. So that's my take on that. So,
I know you
Russell,
also asked, I'm sorry, I know you also asked why not about the college degree. And I think even though it's good to have one, it's preferable. I think that if the department switched to requiring a college degree for a police officer, you kind of shrink your applicant pool. And then you lose out on other applicants who are qualified to do the job. They just might not have the opportunity to go to college, whether it's financial, family, whatever the case may be. But they're well qualified, but then you just isolate that group of people because, they weren't able to go to college. And like I said, you kind of hinder your recruitment doing that.
Right. Thank you. Next question. Doesn't having the technology expectations for applicants leave out some segments of society that you would want to attract? And can't this be remedied with training?
I think with the technology, if you already, and I think most recent generations are more familiar and savvy with electronic use, cell phones, iPads, using different social media platforms, than older generations. And I think when your job, when you're a patrol officer, you're sitting in a car and you're working on a laptop, you're having to check people's status, you're having to create reports, you're having to download videos, and so there's that. We can train a lot of that. I think you when you have that already come from that technology background, or you had some experience either in high school or college, it's going to make it easier for you to acquire that information. That's what I'm saying.
I have to clarify something. I misread the last question or the previous question to you. It was not, why don't they need degrees? The question is, do you recruit at high schools, and if not, why not? And then help them get credits.
Well, go ahead, Russ.
No, I was gonna say, we haven't recently recruited at high schools. So I know we had talked in the past about going to the high schools and introducing ourselves, talking about the job with students, and maybe bringing them here as a CSO, because you have to be 21 years old to be a police officer. And obviously most of the people that are graduating from high school are 18 years old. So they could come here as a CSO, but they'd have to, work here for at least 3 years before they were given the opportunity to go to the police academy. Whereas we go to the universities and the colleges, these students, a lot of them are coming up on age, or they're going to be graduating, and then they can kind of transition into this profession without having to wait that 3-year period, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's just it's a little easier for us at the colleges. We used to have a program years ago before my time where we were mentoring kids in middle school and the high schools. That program has since gone away because of resources. I'd like to see that come back. I can't tell you if that's going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that the foundation has been talking to the police department about this year, when the world opens up again, is kind of a reinstituting of the Citizens Police Academy, not only for adults in the community, but with a focus on youth in the community. And so that might, create awareness and interest in becoming a police officer. So we're excited about that. We just have to wait a little bit longer.
Right.
So thank you. Next question. What are the primary reasons that interested candidates are not eventually hired? Medical reasons, polygraph, physical fitness, failure at the academy, et cetera.
I'm sure we can both talk on this. So one of the main things that gets applicants disqualified is the omissions in their personal history statement, whether it's done intentionally or they've forgotten, but there's things that will come up in their background, and they haven't admitted to that, or excuse me, they haven't admitted to that, and it's been omitted from their PHS. And it's in their PHS, it states that you have to list whether it's, it's very extensive, drugs, alcohol, interactions with police officers, tickets you may have received. There's a lot of questions in there. And when you don't answer those questions honestly or properly, and then we find that later on during your background, that's a disqualifier. That's probably the biggest thing. We do, every once in a while, you might lose somebody to a polygraph, but we haven't had a lot of that. Most of that is caught from us up front with their PHS. Because once they go to the polygraph usually mirrors their PHS. So we don't lose a lot to poly, but it's usually the number one thing is their PHS, not completing that and being forthcoming with information that's required.
And ironically, a lot of the people that are disqualified for failing to disclose, the things that they didn't disclose in and of themselves would not have disqualified them.
Right.
So it's really important when an applicant applies and they fill out that personal history statement, because that's the first instrument we look at. We really don't we look at the application, but the application is pretty broad, not much information. So the next step they do in the process is they fill out this personal history statement. And that's one of the tools we use to judge who we select and who we move along in the process. And if they're painting a pretty image of themselves that's not true, and they get selected to get interviewed because of what they've said in the personal history statement, and we find out later that that's not the case and they get disqualified, it's just their own fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say one other thing, Gail, we have a lot of people that apply with the police department, but we have a large majority of people that, for whatever reason, they fail to fill out the PHS, they don't show up for testing, they don't take the post exam. There are a number of other reasons why they don't get to interview. We find that the most dedicated people usually knock that PHS out in a couple days, 2 or 3 days. They're very prompt. They show up for the testing. They're very engaged with us. We can kind of see a pattern. We kind of sense when somebody is going to be a good candidate that's here for the long haul, as to somebody that's just kind of trying to figure out whether they want to join a police department or not. And that first group that I just discussed, those are the people we really enjoy working with, because they have a passion for this job, and that's critical to us. You've got to have a passion, and it's not just a job. It's a career for you, and it's a path you've chosen.
You have to have a desire to serve. It's not just wearing, the uniform with the flashy badge and carrying the gun. You really want to serve the community. That's the only way that you're going to succeed in this profession, is having that desire and that will to serve the community.
Well, that's very evident. I have had limited interaction with everyone there in the past year because of COVID, but every interaction I've ever had, bears that out. There's such an incredibly dedicated, service-oriented, genuine group of people working at the police department. Well, great. Thank you for that answer. Next question. Have any recruiting policies changed, or are they changing in light of the George Floyd killing or events at the Capitol in January?
I don't think our recruiting policies have, obviously that's impacted our training. The recruiting, though, I don't think has changed. We've developed better policies and procedures with recruiting. Within the last year, we've rewritten our job descriptions for police officers and police recruits. And we've actually improved our medical screening and our psychological screening. I think it's been beneficial. So, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, we want to bring people on board that are going to be a good fit for this community, because Charlottesville's unique. We're not Washington, D.C. or Albemarle County. This is Charlottesville, Virginia. And with that comes some baggage, but there's a lot of opportunity here in this community. And we want people that are going to succeed. And that's going to make us succeed, if we bring on the right people. And that's the best part of this job, is having the ability to be part of that process, where you're bringing people on that are going to impact this department and impact the community. That's really fun.
Russ, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Okay.
Great. So another question, what impact did the events of 2017 have on recruiting new officers in Charlottesville?
I know we had maybe not so much of an impact as hiring. During that time, we had officers that were impacted by the events, and we lost several officers who just decided to retire because of that. I know within the last couple of years, because of that, it's made our recruiting a little harder. Not so much the events. Once again, it just goes back to people not wanting to be police officers and not wanting to deal with events like that. I don't know, LT, you can probably speak more on that. Not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I think it not only impacted recruiting to some degree, but it impacted us internally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think more so internally.
Yeah, everybody that was there that day still has those memories, and they're not going to go away. And that event will always kind of be synonymous with Charlottesville. I mean, it's going to be part of our history here, and it definitely we've had some a lot of positive changes because of that event. But I think the new police recruits we're getting, I don't think they have a great deal of knowledge about 2017 other than what the news clips they heard. And it hasn't impacted the volume of the applications we've received. I think we've lost out on some potential recruits because they don't want to deal with that type of atmosphere. So I don't think there's any quantitative way to pull any data on that. It's just an inference that Russell and I have,
I do believe that it's impacted us more internally than externally as far as getting recruits here. That's my personal opinion.
I can understand that, since all of you went through it, and so I mean that makes sense. There was a question about the law fit, the other elements of the law fit training. So in addition to the tire and the wall, what are the other things required in that training?
So, all right. So basically, the course starts off with an applicant in a seated position. They'll be given a description of a suspect. There's a suspect identification board at the end of the course, and it's just got a number 1, 2, or 3. The applicant yells out the number that corresponds with the description of the suspect. So they're given a description. The applicant repeats the description back, and then the time starts when they get up from that seated position. They'll jump over a 3-foot. It's not a hole in the ground, but it's a little different in the ground. There's a 5-foot wall that they have to scale. There was a picture of it a little while ago in the slideshow. They scale the wall. They low crawl. The body cannot touch the obstacle. When they finish low crawling, they'll run down to a stair step, and they'll do that stair step 12 times.
On your journey.
Come off the stair step. They will climb through a simulated window. They just can't touch the top of the window. They will run past the suspect identification board. They'll yell out the number that corresponds to the identification, the suspect that was given to them in the beginning. And then they have the dummy drag. After they drag the dummy, the last part of the course is dry fire of it's a simulated handgun. Does not fire, and they will put the barrel of the handgun through a circle, and they will pull the trigger once with their support hand, and then one with their strong hand. And the barrel of the gun cannot touch the circumference of the circle. And that's basically it. The two things that get a lot of the applicants on the test are the wall and the dummy drag. And it's just technique. I can tell you, and Lieutenant Jones was there. We had an applicant that was 5'5", and he was 125 pounds, obviously a lot lighter than the dummy. And he was able to get the dummy off the ground and, run through the course. And it's just using the proper technique. But that's the entire course. And most applicants run it. I guess the average time will probably be, if you had to do an average, probably about 1 minute and 20 seconds would be the average that everybody completes it in. We've had some that have completed it in just about 1 minute. And then we've had some that have made it right to, 1 minute, 36 seconds. But I would say at the average time, it's probably about 1 minute, 20 seconds to complete the course.
Wow, that's
And
impressive.
Gail, I won't take the time unless the participant wanted us to play it, but you can go on YouTube and just search Charlottesville Police Fitness Test, and it'll pop up. We have an actual demo. I've got it on my screen here, but it's about 3 minutes long. I think Russell's already done a good job explaining it.
Yeah, I can send the link out to all the participants. I can find it, and I have the email addresses for the participants. I can get it to them.
Yeah, and the law fit test is a gender neutral test. So it doesn't matter whether you're female or male. It's been tested, and there's norms set, and ours are based on those norm standards that were done years ago within the DCGS academies, where they tested people before they were hired as a police officer and after they completed the academy. And then they set the score, the timings up, and you have a minute 36 to complete the test. It's a good test. There's no push-ups involved. There's no sit-ups.
It truly is a work performance test.
It's a work performance test.
Okay.
Everything you do in that test, you'll probably do in your career as a law enforcement officer. Because you're gonna run, you're gonna climb through a window, you're gonna climb over a fence or a wall. Hopefully no one's injured, but you might have to drag your partner out of danger. You're gonna run upstairs. Everything that's in that test is something that you're gonna do in your career.
Right. Okay.
Where the previous test with running 1.5 miles and doing push-ups and sit-ups, it's not something that you're gonna do on the job. If you're chasing somebody for 1.5 miles on foot, I don't know what to say about you, but yeah, but what we do is it's a work performance test.
Okay, great. Well, I always have the unenviable job of the keeper of the time, and we are just almost at 1.
Okay.
I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough for putting this information together. It's been really informative. And, I think that we mentioned to you, these are all recorded and they're archived on the foundation website. So anybody who wants to see them, who hasn't seen it, or go back and pick up something that they missed. So thank you very, very much. I wanted to say the next session the topic is response to resistance, which will be an analysis of police use of force, which is one of the most talked about topics in policing today. It's scheduled for Wednesday, January 13th at noon, and we hope to see you there. In the meantime, be well and stay safe, and thanks for coming.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.